RedWolf here, and today we're going to take a deep dive look into blasters in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Today's target is the Blurrg-1120, and this is coming out on Monday because I want to get it out before they nerf this thing again. I had it originally recorded for last Thursday, but then they nerfed it, and I had to go back and change a lot. So, yeah, we'll be taking a look at the magazine size, rate of fire, damage, and how it drops off, cooling power, and accuracy. I'm going to assume you already know which class this weapon belongs to, but if you don't, I'll link the Trooper review video and their class card that's coming up now. But before we get into all that, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification button so you don't miss when your favorite weapon is posted. New videos will be coming out from now on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll be streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central. If you know anyone who's into stats, go ahead and share this with them. That way they can go ahead and enjoy this as well. Let's start with the magazine size, or the number of rounds you can fire without a break before the system forces you to cool down. The Blurrg has two different sizes for magazines. The normal round allows for a 20 round magazine, so if you're on a 2 burst you get 10 bursts, if you're on a 4 burst you'll get 5, and if you're using the explosive rounds you get 16 rounds in a magazine, which is kind of confusing to me, but we'll get into why when we come to damage. You can add improved burst and explosive round, and by doing this, it'll take the max number of bursts available in the burst 16 round magazine to 4. I wouldn't recommend using the exploding round though, but again, we'll cover that in the next couple sections. So let's move on to the rate of fire. For the rate of fire, it was done by recording the amount of time it took to unload an entire magazine as quickly as possible. The default rate of fire on the Blurrg, with it being a 2 round burst, with firing off the shots as fast as possible, you can fire all 20 rounds in 4.16 seconds. This puts the rounds per minute to 288.46. This seems to be on par with most weapons in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and when you add the improved burst, taking it to 4 round burst, you start to see why this weapon is used so much. The 4 round burst goes through the 20 rounds in 2.4 seconds, with a round per minute at 500. While this isn't the highest rate of fire in the game, it's really fast for a weapon that deals as high amount of damage per round as this weapon does. So for the damage, from 0 to 14 steps, the damage is the highest per round, at 37 damage per round. After that, the drop off starts and it drops all the way down to 20 damage per round at 30 paces. The graph that's on your screen now is showing the rate of drop off compared to distance, and when you're engaging at max range at 30 paces or farther, you're going to be doing 54% of the damage done at a close range engagement. With the 2 round burst, you have a potential of doing 177.88 damage per second if all rounds hit and at close range, and at max or long range, you can do 96.15 damage per second. Again, if all rounds hit. This seems to be on par with most other weapons in the game. However, when you add the improved burst modification, you have a max potential of 308.33 damage per second at close range, and a long range potential of 166.67. This is well above the ability of most weapons, and the highest DPS from any weapon in the game. Unless you land a headshot with the NT242, which is a one-hit kill, but remember, we're not looking at headshots in this, since headshots are inconsistent, and the majority of rounds are going to end up hitting the body anyway. With a Blurrg doing 37 damage per round at close range, in close range you'll be able to drop a specialist in 2 bursts, an assault, an officer, or heavy in 3, and when you add the improved burst, the specialist can die in 1 shot, and all other classes will take 2. One thing I haven't touched yet on the damage section is the explosive modification. The explosive modification does not do any increased damage per round on the primary target. During testing, I found it actually does less damage to the primary target and instead adds just splash damage. So it will do damage to other targets in the area. Close range, the explosive shot does 34 damage to the primary target, and at long range it drops down to 16 damage. You also get less rounds before needing to cool, down from 20 rounds to 16 rounds. You cannot have 3 attachments on a weapon, so if you choose the explosive shot, you'll either lose out on the reduced recoil or the improved burst. They also nerfed the amount of damage done by splash explosives in the last patch, so the splash damage is now lower than it was last week. I do not feel the explosive shot is worth what you'll lose if you choose it. You do less damage, you have less rounds, and you lose out on recoil reduction or the extra damage that makes the Blurrg so good. And the explosives were just nerfed. You're better off running improved burst and recoil reduction together. So for the groupings that are going to be coming up here, this was done in an arcade match on Tatooine. I just took a screenshot of the marks on the wall and then used Photoshop to single them out. It's super impressive. So the recoil on the explosive round is identical to the grouping pattern without it. So again, there's no benefit here. The blue will be the grouping for the 2 round burst, and the green is the grouping for the 4 round burst. The upper portion is with the reduced recoil, and the bottom portion is without it. Naturally, the grouping on the 2-round burst is much tighter than that of the 4-round, with less rounds coming out. However, the recoil reduction gives both a very tight grouping when compared to the fully automatic counterparts, and with the recoil reduction mod, every round, even on a 4-round burst, should hit the target if they're in your crosshairs. The grouping is also pretty straight up and down, so the final shot in a 4-round burst will most likely be a headshot if you're aiming center mass. When it comes to reloading time, the Blurrg is a little bit slower than the CR2 and some of the other weapons, taking a full 3 seconds to fully cool if you fire all rounds and are forced to recool and do not attempt the minigame of hitting the blue or gold sections. If you hit the blue, it'll take 1.16 seconds, and the gold will take 2.06 seconds. If you manually cool the weapon, it'll take 1 second, regardless of the number of rounds that you fired. So ideally, you would want to manually cool after 4 burst with the improved burst modification, and the 9th burst if you're on 2 burst. However, with the blue section being available at 1.16 seconds, it's not much difference as long as you time it right. For the Blurrg, I would recommend trying to use the Marksman card, which is every time that you kill someone using a headshot, it will reset your cooling. So in the comment section down below, let me know what weapon you're wanting to see next. If there's enough focus on one weapon in particular, I'll see what I can do to move it up. And if you don't care what weapon, but a specific class, let me know that and I'll see what I can do as well. If you just want the info and none of this applies to you, let me know what your favorite food is. Personally, I love burritos, and they're delicious. So that's all I've got. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe to this channel. I love having you guys here. Also, if you're on the PlayStation, come join my PlayStation community. It's RedWolf72ps4, where we can talk and party up for a few matches. When I do streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will send a party invite to the community, so anyone in the community can hop in that party. You can also find me on Twitter at RedWolf72ps4. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I will see you in game.